Office of the Leader of the Opposition. We're talking today about this issue affecting many families, the issue of cost of living. No doubt this is crushing the pockets and the very survival of many St. Lucian families who continue to feel the pain and the anguish. When people go to the supermarket, they are overwhelmed by the sheer price increases, the sheer level of how simple grocery items have gone from one level to the next. In some instances, we've seen grocery items being almost doubled. We're seeing in the price of eggs, the price of butter, the price of cheese, the price of milk, the price of very basic commodities have gone up. Bread, cooking gas, fuel, all gone up. I worry about the fishermen, for example. And the government has said that they've given them rebates. But have we quantified whether the rebates are commensurate with the level of price increases in gas? To me, this is the fundamental mistake that the government has made. Because energy and gas is a fundamental input into the economic development of the country. What I mean by that is how a lot of people are able to make their hustle. And that could be whether you win or you lose. Every single bar in this country has an electricity bill. Every single bus driver needs fuel. Every single fishing boat that we see, they need fuel. And when small business people like bar owners and shop owners and even residential people see increases, they are going to pass on those extra costs to us, the people that are consuming. Let's look at what has happened in bus fares. We've seen in bus fares that the price of transportation has gone up island-wide. In Canaries, for example, we see that people have to pay $7 to get to Castries one way. Return is $14. So if you are working on minimum wage and you are making $1,100 and you have to come to the city 5 times a week because of your job, it means that you have to pay in bus alone some $70 a week or $280 a month. Just think about it. So in essence, you are left with $800. You have to pay NIC 5% from that, from the total $1,100. So you're left with very little to then go and face the supermarket where they have very high prices, where at the gas stations you still have to go and buy the 20-pound cylinder at an increased rate. You still have to go to Massey stores and to get all the commodities you want, much less if you fall sick. Don't even bother falling sick, because if you do, there's no Panadols in the hospital. Basic commodities that you need to get well, you now have to go and buy this yourself. You have to bring your own bed sheet. You have to bring pillows and all of the basic supplies that you expect a hospital in 2024 to have. So your healthcare costs have gone up, because instead of our health centers and our main hospitals being fully equipped to take care of that for you, you now have to push your hands in your pocket. If you need scans, a CTC scan can run you thousands of dollars. It's $1,000+ and upwards. I know, for example, many families are struggling with the cost of education. There are people from Canaries with 2 children going to Sir Arthur Lewis, and they have to pay $28 a day. Imagine that, $28 a day. There are no school bus subsidy for Sir Arthur Lewis students from Canaries. Now, when we went to Parliament recently, we realized that in the Economic and Social Review, the government's report on the economy, the government showed, and the Economic and Social Review showed, that subsidies in general went down. So the Economic and Social Review pointed out that there was a reduction in the school transportation subsidy island-wide and across the board for primary schools and secondary schools. That number actually went down. So it means that the government is supporting you less. So while they spend $80 million for World Cup, $80 million through NLA just to prepare for World Cup, and 10 million plus for the Jazz Festival, several million for Carnival. It means that they see these investments as more important than getting your child to school on a daily basis. It was the United Workers' Party that conceived this school bus system so that students can continue to come to the top schools wherever they are, whether they're in the south, whether they are in the city or the north of the country. The school transportation subsidy is a means of lifting many families out of poverty and into the middle class. I don't have to convince you today how important a role the education sector is, how important a role that education plays in the evolvement of our lives, our ability to earn more money. Today, we all know that everybody needs a certificate if they're going to hire you. And the more qualifications you have, the better you have a chance of getting a better income. When the government is going to now rob you of that opportunity by not supporting you, by not making sure that wherever you live, whether it's in Canaries or Soufrière or Micoud or Monrepo, that you can get the best education possible. You have done the hard work. You passed your CPEA, which they used to call common entrance. And instead of doing that, the government has just continued to charge you VAT on school shoes. They continue to charge you VAT on school bags, for example. And so because of that, the price of equipping your child for school has now gone out of the reach of many families. Many of you, still don't have the back-to-school shopping on lock. You still haven't completed that back-to-school shopping because it is just too expensive. The bags and the shoes and the vest. A lot of people are still reusing old equipment from last year. And what's hurtful about this is that the United Workers' Party came up with a strategy to help reduce the price of books, the price of education. We said, look, and we started with a pilot project to bring in the e-government program. And by bringing in the e-government, what we did, the e-books system, is that this would have reduced the cost that you have to pay for books. Now, the government in its wisdom decided that the best thing to do is to give the students laptops without any proper or relevant learning tools on it. And so this is the sort of vision that has affected your pocket, that has affected your ability to earn more in this country. The United Workers' Party also reduced VAT. It was 15% instituted by the Labour Party. Never mind, they said, while they were in opposition, that VAT was oppressive to the poor. But even though they were convinced that VAT was oppressive to the poor, they still went and put on the same 15% rate. When we were trying to ease the pain on you, the people of St. Lucia, the government actually criticized us. They said we were going to lose $50 million, and we continued to argue that we will do anything that is possible within the powers of the government to reduce the cost of living on the people of St. Lucia. We went and we forgave $11 million in outstanding fees owed by St. Lucians in all walks of life at the old Victoria Hospital, so that you can get a reprieve, you can start from scratch and allow yourselves to meet the high cost of living. During COVID, when many of you lost your jobs, we provided income support. We ensured that over 15,000 of you were supported, even thousands of vendors and taxi drivers and shop owners and bar owners who did not have the requisite means. We supplied that assistance because we understand that in times like these, when it's very tough, governments have got to be creative. Governments have got to reduce the cost of living, the pressures that people feel. The government has actually gone up. They have actually gone in and they have instituted a 2.5% levy on even rent, house rent. So even rent on businesses, small business people who are trying to hustle, speculators, bar owners, people who have restaurants and so on. Once you are renting from housing, they put on a 2.5% levy on you at this time when your consumers' spending power has been reduced. These are the kinds of policies that are causing you, the people of St. Lucia, to feel that squeeze. Now, the Prime Minister has continued to commit a very, very cardinal sin on you, the people. And the sin is this. The price of oil has gone down significantly on the world market. And in that price of oil, what we have seen is that it has reached as much as 70 something in recent times. And that 70 something dollars is giving the government an opportunity to reduce the excise tax. We look at the economic and social review and we see that instead of government reducing the excise tax and pass on those savings to you, the consumers, the government has actually picked up doubling the amount that they picked up in 2022. And so now the tax has doubled that they pick up on gas, and that is what has caused the increase in prices. And that's Philip J. Pierre's economic policy. Increase taxes so that they can do their favorite projects for friends. But you, the people of St. Lucia, are the ones who end up paying this at the end of the day because the government does not have a conscience. They do not care about you, the people of St. Lucia. And so I say to you, my friends, it is time for us to change course. It is time for us to elect a government with a new vision, with new policies that will help to reduce the cost of living. I look, and I'm very proud to say, that for you people that are trying to do small businesses, it is the United Workers' Party that went and borrowed money from the CDB and put it at the Development Bank of St. Lucia so that you can have funding to start your small business. It is the United Workers' Party that built the Box Park project next to Massey Stores so that you can come and not have to build your own facility in the city center, which could be very expensive. But for startup businesses, you can rent this facility, giving you an opportunity to get into business, to start your own company, to employ other people, and to get ahead of the high increases that we see in cost of living. So those are just some of the examples of how the United Workers' Party can keep you, the people of St. Lucia, ahead of this very high cost of living. In closing, I want to sympathize with all of you fathers out there, because too often you are having to tell your kids, I can't afford it. And when a father has to say to a child, I can't afford it, it really removes his dignity. It strips him of that pride of being a man, of being able to afford it, of being able to provide for your family. This is what the policies of Philip J. Pierre and the St. Lucia Labour Party has done to you, the people of St. Lucia. It has stripped our men of their dignity, of that pride we feel when we're able to provide for our family. And too many men, too many mothers today have to budget, have to stretch the dollar. And we can do better than this. And that's the point. I thank you. I want to introduce a young up-and-coming advocate on the development stage. I want to introduce Mr. Joshua Harrow.
Thank you, Senator Fady. I know right now we're in the flu season and we're trying to avoid the hospitals as much as possible because we want to be able to live through the season. But my fellow St. Lucians, today our country is at a crossroad, and it is our duty to speak truthfully about the challenges we face. Let us not mince words. Our economy is broken. Ask any St. Lucian about their biggest concern, and you hear out loud and clear, prices are too high. Everywhere you turn, you see the struggle etched into the faces of our people. The problem isn't just a few high costs here and there. The problem today is affordability. And let me reiterate that statement. The problem today is affordability. People are barely hanging on. Imagine you cannot even afford 4 loaves of bread on that same dollar, right? You can get 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky. The dollar is not as strong as it used to be. Think about that. Our money buys less, yet the prices continue to go up. People cannot even afford bus fare. Mind you, that I live in the Castries constituency, the Castries North constituency. I'm paying $2.50 for bus. That is the same amount of money that I would pay to go from Castries to Groseley. A longer distance, I'm paying equivalent to go to my home, which is a very short distance. It's in the same constituency that I live in. If you add 50 cents, because we used to pay $2, if you add 50 cents for 5 days, that is $2.50. That is literally $10 extra per month you are paying for bus. $10 extra. My goodness, that is a struggle. A dollar used to have value in our economy. Now, it's having a struggle in the people's pocket. Let's look at the record. Their record. The price of gas has skyrocketed to $16.50 per gallon. When the Prime Minister, Philip J. Pierre, was in opposition, he cried out saying the price of gas was too high. But how high was it back then? It was $13.95. Let me say this, $13.95. Today, under their leadership, it is $16.50. That is bare hypocrisy. Bare hypocrisy. Our neighbors in Grenada, Dominica, and St. Kitts pay less for gas than we do. Meanwhile, prices rise here, yet our salaries stay the same. We spend more, save less, struggle harder to provide for our families. Now let's look at healthcare. The costs have soared. People avoid the hospitals not because they're healthy, but because they cannot afford the bill. Can we call this progress when people must choose between healthcare and hunger? Something is terribly wrong. The government is forcing people into life and death decisions over money. That, my friends, is unacceptable. And then there's crime. Rising crime doesn't just rob us of our money. Once again, let me say this. Rising crime doesn't just rob us of our money. It robs us of our freedom and safety. Our businesses suffer, our streets feel less safe, and foreign investors look elsewhere. We cannot build a future if we're constantly looking over our shoulders, fearful of what's to come next under this administration. Life becomes unlivable when you cannot afford the essentials: food, cooking gas, and fuel. Higher prices are like a thief that steals your paycheck and your peace of mind. But there's also hidden cost, the cost of corruption. When the public treasury is looted for special interests, when money meant for the people lines the pockets of the few, the hardworking people of St. Lucia lose out. This government has not just failed to protect our paychecks, they've made our lives poorer, inch by inch. The hidden hand of corruption, government inefficiency, incompetence, and their refusal to act on skyrocketing costs have left our people in poverty. And let me be clear, this is a sin against the very people you swore to serve, also known as putting the people first. Remember, the government is directly responsible for the prices we face. Their decisions determine whether you thrive or merely survive. This government has failed you. This government must go. SLP, Papi Show. St. Lucia, we deserve better. We deserve leaders who fight for us, who protect our livelihoods, who bring down the cost of living, and who make our nation a place where we can all live with dignity. Let us raise our voices together. Let us demand change. Let us reclaim our future. So wear your orange. Tie it around your vehicle. It could be an orange handbag, orange necklace, something orange. Just wear it. The prices are too high and the people are falling. It is time for us to come back under the leadership of Alan Chastanet to make St. Lucia an economic hub and to have viability and prosperity amongst the people of St. Lucia. So once again, wear your orange. Don't be afraid. Stand up, stand out, stand proud. I'm Joshua Harrow, and I would like to welcome the United Workers' Party's communication officer, a man who is fierce in the game, Spider Montoute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joshua Harrow. And let me say a special good day to those of you watching us on live streaming, especially those of you in the diaspora. And as you just heard my two colleagues, Senator Fede and Mr. Josh Harrow, speak on the burning issues of high cost of living. They touched on crime, and of course, they touch on healthcare. We have made appeals upon appeals on behalf of the people to ask our government to bring down the cost of the prices of goods on our shelves. To date, our pleas have fallen on deaf ears. We gave the government up to the 1st of November with a hope that they would listen to the cries of the ordinary man and to do a number of things. First of all, we requested, given the fact that the price of fuel on the international market has gone down, it is somewhere in the region of about $70 a barrel currently, that in light of this, they pass on the savings to the consumer and reduce the price of fuel from $16.50 a gallon, where it is at the moment, to $14 or less. That has not been done. I want to remind St. Lucians that back in the day when the Alan Chastanet-led administration was in office, there were times when the price of fuel was much higher than $70, but we capped the price of a gallon of fuel here in St. Lucia, a gallon of gas, at $13.95. So it is, in fact, a rip-off that is perpetrated by the government of St. Lucia on the people of St. Lucia to further add a burden upon them. Now, what are the consequences of keeping the gas prices that high? As you would appreciate, people in moving from one place to the next for the purpose of going to school, for the purpose of going to their jobs, many of us utilize public transport. As a consequence of the high fuel prices that exist here in St. Lucia, the bus drivers have had to increase bus fares. That, of course, further compounds the hardship of the ordinary man here in St. Lucia. In addition to this, We know that when it comes to providing goods, that transportation is a key factor. We have to move the goods from the ports to the areas where they are stored and then distributed to the retailers before these goods can find themselves on the shelves where we purchase them. The fact that fuel prices are high has resulted in an increase in the cost of transportation. So there again is another reason why we have to fork out more money from our pockets to pay for goods in this country. And if the government cannot see the hardship that their policies are creating for St. Lucians, even after St. Lucians are crying out for some reprieve, then I have no choice but to conclude that our government does not care about our people and that our government is simply heartless. I want to talk of subsidies. Another reason why the prices are so high, and I'm not oblivious to the fact that currently there's inflation worldwide. That is a fact, and it affects almost every country in the world. We understand that. And given the fact that we import so much of the goods that we consume in this country, naturally, there would be high prices in St. Lucia. But what a government that cares about its people, what a government that has a conscience does in a situation such as this, is that they would implement policies that would alleviate the burden of the onerous high prices on the people of this country. Instead, the government has ignored the sufferings of the people and has made the prices, the high prices, even worse. I say so because when the United Workers' Party government under Alan Chastanet and even previous administrations of the United Workers' Party were in office, what was being done as a policy was to subsidize some staples. For example, we always had subsidies on rice, flour, and sugar. These are commodities, these are staple foods that are used by poor people on a daily basis. The consequences of subsidizing those commodities is that a single parent, for example, who is raising her children, who have to send them to school and who have to provide daily for them, it is more affordable to provide them with some juice, some tea, for example, in which you use sugar. It is more affordable to cook some food for them since the price of rice would be lower. It is more affordable to provide for them something that most St. Lucians eat on a daily basis, bread. And we have seen the consequences of that, especially with regard to bread. Given the fact that the subsidies on flour was reduced, the price of bread went up, so as to ensure that the bakers remain in business. What the government could have simply done is to subsidize the flour so that the price of bread could remain the same. And we will keep repeating until the government appreciates and understands that what they have in fact done is a staple food such as bread, the Creole bread that most of us use, especially poor people, was once 25 cents a loaf. It is now 45 cents a loaf, almost double the price. So in other words, to put it more simply, in the past, some 3 years ago, you were able to go to a bakery and purchase 4 loaves on $1. Today, you can only get 2 loaves for your dollar. That in itself has created direct hardship, especially for single parents and poor people who rely on bread, not just for breakfast, but very often for those who go to work and go to school as a means of providing lunch for themselves. So, we are making the appeal that the government, and we understand that the government has its challenges as well in terms of resources, but we are asking that you do what we have recommended, to engage in targeted subsidies especially when it comes to commodities such as flour and rice, staples that St. Lucians utilize, especially poor families. Targeted subsidies are required to reduce the prices in that regard. I will now come to another egregious act as far as the tax policies of the St. Lucia Labour Party is concerned. From day one, the United Workers' Party advised the government of the dire consequences of imposing a 2.5% levy on goods and services in this country at a time when inflation was very high, at a time when on the shelves in our supermarkets the cost of groceries were unaffordable to most people, to the extent that today, when a housewife or any individual for that matter goes to the supermarket, they have to decide not based on needs, but they have to make decisions as to what they buy based on means. And that suggests that they have to sometimes leave back some of the things that they need and prioritize what they can afford. That in itself can have consequences for health. And so sometimes, even when it comes to the purchase of medication, some people have to juggle, because we know that we are a society that is afflicted with many non-communicable chronic diseases, such as diabetes, such as hypertension, and such as cardiovascular diseases. Some of our people, unfortunately, are afflicted with more than one at the same time of those diseases. And so they have to juggle as far as purchasing the medication is concerned. This is the situation that our government has reduced our people to, where it is not a decision as to taking care of your health, but is a decision based on what you can afford. And so this is compounding the already dire health crisis that we face in this country. And I want to point out to the government that if they cannot make the correlation between the high cost of living, the high inflation that exists in St. Lucia, and the cascading effect this has on health and, of course, on crime in this country. Because when people cannot afford, the temptation to engage in criminal activity is higher. And we have seen that the government made us believe that they in fact are concerned about those consequences, that is the deterioration in health and the need for healthcare and the need for safety in St. Lucia and the reduction of crime, the need for a reduction of crime. And so they told us deceitfully that they were going to impose that 2.5% levy for the purpose of directing those resources toward improving our healthcare and our security in this country. We have had enough time now to assess the result of this. We have had enough time now to know that this was a lie in the first place. We were told that the levy was meant for security and healthcare, but instead we found out that it was a requirement for securing a loan from the Caribbean Development Bank. That was not told to us initially, it was told to us after the fact. So, in effect, our government lied to us, deceived us into paying a higher tax that we understood that would have gone to health and security. But if, in fact, we paid this 2.5% levy toward health and security, what we have actually done is paid to the government an additional 2.5% on goods and services to make our health situation worse and to make the security of this country worse. Because in both cases, rather than an improvement, we have seen a deterioration in the standard of healthcare, and we have seen a deterioration in the security of our country. And if you don't want to believe me, you can read for yourself the assessment of the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association as to what they evaluated our health situation to be. And in summary, what they said was that we are experiencing the worst healthcare situation in the history of this country. In the case of crime, if you don't believe me, simply make a cursory assessment of the homicide rate in this country. Last year, we experienced record numbers of 75 homicides in this country, and that is only the official figures. There are those who will say to you that there are more homicides than were reported. And this year, to date, we are already at 70 homicides. Again, that is the official count. And there are those who will tell you that there are in fact more than 70 St. Lucians who have perished as a result of violent crime in this country. We don't even speak of burglary, we don't speak of robberies, but we know that this is something that happens in this country in broad daylight on our streets, even in our city. And so I will hazard to say that the high cost of living does not help that situation, but instead contributes to that situation. And so we are asking the government again to remove the 2.5% levy that was imposed upon us deceitfully, that was placed on us on services and goods in this country, further exacerbating the high cost of living in this country. As you know, as we have told you before, the 2.5% is not merely a 2.5%. In many instances, it is a compounded tax. And by that I mean, if, for example, you have a bag of flour on which the subsidy has been reduced, which means the cost is higher to the baker, to get it from the pot, and you have to pay. They say you don't have to pay on food, but there are many goods that you still have to pay on, because one of the first notices we got was from KFC, who sells food, to indicate that the price was going up as a result of the 2.5%. So you would have to pay a higher price for the commodity. You have to pay that because of the 2.5%. You would have to pay 2.5% for the transportation of that commodity to your retail outlet. You would also have to probably pay the handlers for their service another 2.5. So it is in fact a compounded tax that just further exacerbates the situation and makes our crisis worse in this country. So we are saying again to the government, exercise good judgment, show some caring for the people of this country, show that you have a conscience and that you understand the plight of our people. Remove the 2.5%. I'm calling on St. Lucians, given the fact that the high fuel price, which is not supposed to be that high, given the fact that fuel prices have gone down. Okay, the price of a barrel of fuel on the international market has gone down. We are asking that that benefit be passed on to the consumer and lower the price of fuel to at least $14 or less. Again, replace the reduced subsidies, especially on commodities that are staples to the poor people of this country. And we are asking that you remove the 2.5%, just as you did for an investor who found that 2.5% levy to be too onerous for him and asked that it be removed, and you waived it for him. We are saying you ought to do the same for the average St. Lucian. Remove the 2.5%. And I'm calling on St. Lucians, since our pleas are falling on deaf ears, that we have to demonstrate our disgust, we have to demonstrate our dissatisfaction, and let the government know that we are serious about the request that we are making. And please indicate your outrage about this situation by flying your orange flag, putting an orange ribbon on your vehicle, near your house, or on your property, wear an orange band to demonstrate that you are in fact protesting against this burdensome, onerous government policy that continues to make life difficult for St. Lucians. And so, in closing, I want to say that if the government cannot understand that they ought to give St. Lucian some reprieve by reducing the cost of living here in St. Lucia, by changing their policies, and, of course, the consequential positive effect it will have on health, the positive consequential effect it will have on crime, then we will have to up our protest action from merely flying our orange bands, banners, flags, and ribbons to taking physical action to show the government that we are serious and that we cannot take any more of that onerous, burdensome, high cost of living, the poor healthcare situation, and the high crime rate that exists in this country. Again, Mr. Prime Minister, government officials, government of St. Lucia, please show your concern for the plight of St. Lucians. Thank you very much. Before I leave, it is my understanding that we have some questions. And if you can please let me know what the questions are. I will first repeat the questions, and if I am the one to answer, I will. If not, I will call on the appropriate person. Yeah.
Okay, so first question. Number one is for Dominic.
Okay, the first question is for Mr. Fede, and what is the question?
What will
Senator Fede, sorry.
do about the cost of living?
Okay, the first question is what will the United Workers' Party do about the cost of living? Senator Fede will take this question.
Thank you very much for that question from Facebook. The United Workers' Party will not just accept that nothing can be done. The Prime Minister has said that cost of living is important. We accept that. But the United Workers' Party have recognized that when you import commodities, goods and services, and when you add taxes to them, you're only exacerbating the situation. You are making an already bad situation worse. And so when we look at the price of gas, for example, it doesn't have to be as expensive if the government can just reduce the amount of tax that it picks up. If you look at groceries in the supermarket, the 2.5% levy of which the United Workers' Party has already said that we will be removing, because that has compounded the prices. I mean, 2.5 on a range of services. When you look at in a grocery store, for example. So Massey, they're passing on brokerage fees to you. They're passing on trucking fees to you. They're passing on the 2.5% tax on security costs. They're passing on 2.5% health and security levy on auditing their books. They're passing on the 2.5% levy to you when they have to, for example, do advertising. You, the people of St. Lucia, are paying for this. And so the Prime Minister not understanding the untold damage that this is having. When we allow gas to be as expensive, when we don't pass on the savings, it means that everything from pasta to condiments to soft drinks to everything manufactured locally that uses diesel will come out more expensive because the taxes are too high. The government has just given a tax break to the National Trust because the National Trust has complained that VAT is too onerous for its operations. The government, as Spider has just said, has given a tax break to a man developing office buildings in Rodney Bay because he said he will not do the development because of the tax. So if they can waive the tax because of this man and the National Trust, the government is giving VAT to hotel developers, VAT free. So why is it you, the people of St. Lucia, has to pay this tax, but the very wealthy investors don't have to pay the tax? So simply put, the United Workers' Party will make sure that the same level of taxation, the same rate of tax will be paid by consumers that is paid by large hotel developers and developers or large investors. We will make sure that you, the people of St. Lucia, get the tax break and the help that you need. That is a big thing. we will build a dynamic economy. We will focus on economic growth and job creation. It's important. Once you've got a job, you stand a better chance of affording the cost of living situation. We will increase the transportation subsidy to make sure that your school children can go to school for free. We will not reduce it like the St. Lucia Labour Party. We will give rebates and subsidies for electricity bills like we did during COVID-19 so that you, the people of St. Lucia, can have cheaper electricity bills by making sure that we pass on the savings to Lusilec and not overtax them so that they pass on those taxes to you. That is where you're seeing the spike in electricity bill. So the United Workers' Party will get rid of all of that. We will support our local farmers. Our local farmers will have the opportunity to grow more local homegrown stuff so that we can reduce the high shipping costs and reduce as well the burden from the duties of imported agricultural produce.
Could we have the next question, please?
So, Spider, this question is for you. Will the UWP remove the 2.5% health and security levy when they win the election?
Okay, the question is, will the UWP remove the 2.5% levy after they have won the election? The question is an emphatic yes. I am hoping, though, that by the time the next election is called, that this 2.5%, that the government will understand and come to its senses and realize that this 2.5% has to be removed on the backs of the St. Lucians. But if it exists, well, they did indicate that it would be there for up to a certain period of time. We do not know when elections are going to be called. But if it still exists, I would be tempted to say, although I guess they would have to have the swearing in of ministers first, but I'm tempted to say that one of the first course of action would be to remove that onerous 2.5% levy on the backs of St. Lucians.
Yeah. And next question. I remember during the election campaign, the United Workers' Party promised a reduction of VAT. Will the new United Workers' Party government keep that promise?
Yes, the question is, the United Workers' Party during the last election campaign promised that they would further reduce VAT, because as you would recall, the UWP reduced VAT from 15% to 12.5%, whether they would keep the promise to further reduce VAT. The answer again is an emphatic yes. We will attempt to bring it down to 10%, and that is because of the United Workers' Party economic policies and its approach to economic development and growth in this country. We do not believe in high taxation. We think it is counterproductive and does not augur well for the economy. But instead, we believe that the more disposable income that is within the reach or in the pockets of the consumer, the more commerce there will be, the more revenue that will be generated, the more profits businesses will make, and all around everyone will benefit. And so we have seen that work in the past, and because what high taxation has done, very often, if you carry out a study, is to cripple economies and minimize the spending power of the consumer. Well, we believe in going the other way, and I think that will augur well, not just for the economy, but to the consumer as well.
The next question is for Joshua Harrow. How is the high cost of living affecting young people of this country?
The next question is, how is the high cost of living affecting young people in this country? And Mr. Joshua Harrow will be the one answering this question.
Thank you, Spider. Thank you for that question. It's hurting the young people on several factors due to the fact that young people do not make sufficient income for them to be able to afford the lives that they need. Many young people do not have the opportunities to afford scholarship, and they pay universities out of their own pockets. Many cannot afford rent. Some of them have to have multiple roommates just for them to have a place to live. Groceries continue to go up by almost $100 if you look, because we cannot even afford to maintain our homes because it continues to rise. Young people are not offered job opportunities due to the fact that businesses are now looking at their budgets on who they can hire, when they can hire them, and all these increased costs now are forcing companies to say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna have to hire less, I'm going to have less staff, and usually it's the young people who are the most affected by that. So there are several factors. You cannot afford insurance to take care of yourself, especially in this crisis when we look at the medical system. Transportation, so that's even affecting the living areas of young people because they have to look at their transportation budget. I remember as a young person, when I was a teacher, I was spending $200 a month just to go to work. So that is a great cost to young people, especially if you're not making above $1,500 a month. So these are many things that we have to look at as it pertains to young people, their spending habits, their eating habits, as well as their home habits, which have been crippled under this administration. So these are just a few factors. There are several more I can go on, but these are just a few factors that are affecting the young people of St. Lucia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrow. And the next question we have is, why has the United Workers' Party gone silent on CIP? I will call on the Deputy Political Leader, Senator Fede, to answer this question. That's a question that came via Facebook.
And the question there is from Mr. Ronald Antoine. We thank you for this question. The Labour Party has done such a bad job in managing this country. There are so many issues that we have to deal with. I mean, you look at crime today, it's in a crisis. We look at the cost of living issue, which we're dealing with today. It's unprecedentedly high. We look at, for example, what's happening in healthcare, another disaster. And so we have to try our best to give space to all of these issues and focus, because we have people who are interested in all of these issues. These issues are affecting the people of St. Lucia in real ways. But I want to say this about the CIP, that the United Workers' Party will revoke every citizenship that is sold under the legal price. The United Workers' Party will continue to put its foot on the gas to make sure that the Minister of CIP does right by the law of this country. We still ask the Minister the relevant question: why did you change the agreement with Galaxy to give them $1.2 billion in revenue for a hotel that costs $400 million? That is the question we put to you. Why would you give someone $800 million in profits? Just think of what that money could have gone to. We're talking about cost of living today. There are a lot of families that need income support. Instead of reducing the poverty, the amount of people on the poverty list, there are thousands of people that have applied. And there are thousands of elderly people who need to be on that poverty list. Instead, the government sees it necessary to give away $800 million to a Chinese company, rather than saying and looking carefully, what can that money do for the people of St. Lucia? What can that money do for the students who are going to Sir Arthur Lewis without a transportation subsidy? What can that money do for young males who are unemployed and can't bring anything home, and having to face the indignity in saying to their young kids that they can't afford it? What can that money do for our health care service? I noticed that the Prime Minister put a measly little $15 million. But that $15 million is not enough. Doctors are still resigning. Nurses are still going overseas looking for better pay. I mean, just think of what $800 million US could have done to solve all of the problems. We see our banana farmers going through a lot of struggle. Just think of what that could have done to help them out. So we haven't gone silent on CIP, but it's just that this Labour Party government, they have made so many mistakes that it is hard for us to touch all of the issues at the same time. And we will be redirecting our focus on this matter in the coming weeks. Is there another question, Sparrow, for you? Well, I want to thank you, our viewers today, for this live. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your questions. And thank you for your continued loyalty to the United Workers' Party. Thank you.
And just before we go off our live stream, I just want to remind our viewers that you can join us on Thursday. Thursday morning we have Meet the Opposition and Rev Up. Of course, you can follow on Facebook as well. On Thursday night, you have Roundtable at 8:30. And on Sunday, we have another Flabo Live that will be taking place in Micoud North. And of course, come next Monday, we have Like It Is on Hot 7 TV and Kiss FM. And of course, that too you can follow on Facebook. I just want to take this opportunity to apologize to all of our viewers and listeners to Like It Is for what transpired last night. We had some technical difficulties. Our system crashed, and so we were unable to continue the program. We had to abort. But we'll make up for that next Monday, and we ask you to join us then. We want to thank you, especially those of you in the diaspora who have consistently been with us. We invite you to continue following the United Workers' Party, and those of you around St. Lucia, we thank you for your continued support and participation. Thanks, and have a good day. Thank you very much.